My stepdad drained my college fund for her son's failed business. Now I own a $500 million company and he's working the register at my store. Please take a second to hit subscribe and tell us where you're joining from. I'm always touched by how connected this community feels. I found the empty college fund statement wedged between takeout menus in the kitchen drawer. My hands trembled as I stared at the balance. $0. 18 years of my grandmother's careful deposits. $127,000, gone. I was 17, 3 months from high school graduation, acceptance letters from Howard and Spelman sitting on my desk upstairs. The account my grandmother opened when I was born, the one she fed every birthday, every Christmas, every just because moment until cancer took her 2 years ago. Mom. I called out, my voice cracking. The paper crumpled in my fist as I walked into the living room where she sat with Marcus, my stepfather of 5 years. His son Devin lounged on our couch, 24 and unemployed, scrolling through his phone like he owned the place. What's wrong, baby? Mom looked up from her laptop, her reading glasses sliding down her nose. I held up the statement. Where's my college money? The room went silent. Marcus's jaw tightened, but he didn't look surprised. He looked caught. Mom's face drained of color, her eyes darting between me and Marcus like a trapped animal. Zara, sit down, Marcus said, his voice that calm, patronizing tone he used when he was about to gaslight me. Let's talk about this rationally. Talk about what? Where's my money? My grandmother's face flashed through my mind. Her wrinkled hands signing those deposit slips, her proud smile when she'd tell me about my future fund. Devin needed it, Marcus said simply, like that explained everything. Needed it. I repeated, my voice rising. For what? Devin finally looked up from his phone, smirking. My business, little sis. Somebody's gotta be an entrepreneur in this family. Don't call me that. I turned to my mother, desperate for her to fix this. Mom, tell me you didn't know about this. Her silence was deafening. She twisted her wedding ring, that nervous habit she'd developed since marrying Marcus. Zara, Devin's sneaker resale business was a real opportunity. We thought. I felt like I'd been punched. You gave him my college fund? The one Grandma spent 18 years building. Marcus stood up, his 6'3" frame meant to intimidate. Your grandmother left that money to your mother, not you. Legally it was hers to manage. And families invest in each other. Devin was about to make us all rich. Was about to? I caught the past tense. What happened to this amazing business? Devin shifted uncomfortably. The market changed. Supply chain issues. You wouldn't understand. Try me. I crossed my arms, fighting back tears. I wouldn't cry in front of them. He lost it, my mother whispered. All of it. The shipment was fake. The supplier disappeared. So my college fund is gone. Just gone. My voice broke despite my best efforts. Marcus stepped closer. You'll figure it out. Student loans, scholarships, community college. You're smart, right? You'll manage. Get away from her, Mom said suddenly, but there was no force behind it. That night I called my Aunt Shanice, my mom's younger sister. She'd warned Mom about Marcus before the wedding and they'd barely spoken since. Baby girl, she said after I explained everything, her voice tight with fury, pack a bag. I'm coming to get you. I can't just leave Mom. Your mama made her choice. She chose that man over you, over her own mother's wishes. You don't owe her your future. Aunt Shanice's words cut deep because they were true. You've got 3 months until graduation. Stay with me, finish school, and we'll figure out college together. But I couldn't leave yet. I needed answers. The next morning I confronted Mom alone while Marcus was at work. How could you? I asked, finding her in the kitchen. Grandma trusted you. Tears rolled down her cheeks. Marcus said it was a sure thing. Devon had business plans, investor meetings. I thought I was helping us all. She reached for my hand, but I pulled away. Baby, I thought I was being a good wife, supporting my husband's son. What about being a good mother? Supporting your daughter. I'm sorry. Her voice was barely audible. I'll make this right. I promise. How? The money's gone. Devon blew it on fake Jordans. I'll get a second job. We'll take out loans together. No. The word came out harder than I intended. I'm going to Aunt Shanice's. Zara, please. Did you know Grandma made me promise something before she died? I asked, my voice steady now. She made me promise I'd go to college, that I'd build something she could be proud of. You helped me break that promise. Mom sobbed, but I felt nothing. Marcus came home that evening to find my bags packed in the hallway. What's this about? He demanded, his voice booming through the house. Devon emerged from the basement and Mom stood frozen in the kitchen doorway. I'm leaving, I said calmly. Aunt Shanice is picking me up. Like hell you are. Marcus blocked the door. You're 17. You live under my roof, you follow my rules. Your roof. I laughed bitterly. This was my grandma's house. He left it to Mom, not you. And I'm not following rules from a man who stole my future for his deadbeat son. Devon jumped up. Watch your mouth. Or what? I stepped toward him, something dangerous uncurling in my chest. You gonna take something else from me? Oh wait, you already took everything. That money was invested in family, Marcus growled. Devon would have paid you back tenfold. Really? Because from where I'm standing, Devon can't even pay for his own Netflix subscription. I turned to Devon. How much did you lose? All of it? Did you even try to build a real business, or did you just blow it on bottles at the club? His face reddened. You don't know what you're talking about. I know you're 24, living in your stepdaddy's basement, and you lost $127,000 in 3 months. That's what I know. Marcus grabbed my arm. You ungrateful. Mom's voice cracked like a whip. Don't touch her. It was the first time she'd stood up to him since the wedding. Marcus, let her go. After everything I've done for this family? He released my arm but blocked my path. I married you, took care of you both. You mean you moved into my mother's house and spent my daughter's inheritance? Mom said quietly. Aunt Shanice's horn honked outside. Marcus reluctantly stepped aside, his face purple with rage. You walk out that door, don't come crawling back, he spat. You'll fail without us. You'll see how hard the real world is. I picked up my bags, then turned to face him one last time. No, Marcus. I'll make something of myself despite what you did. And one day you'll regret this. That sounds like a threat, Devon said, recording on his phone. It's a promise. I looked at my mother, hoping she'd say something, do something. She just stood there crying. Bye, Mom. The drive to Aunt Shanice's apartment in Atlanta was quiet. She lived in a modest 2-bedroom in Decatur. Nothing fancy, but it was clean and safe. You can have the spare room, she said, squeezing my hand. We'll make this work. That night I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about my grandmother's face, her dreams for me, the weight of her expectations. I opened my laptop and started researching scholarship opportunities. Howard University had a full-ride program for students with financial hardship. The application was due in 2 weeks. I wrote all night, pouring my story onto the page. My grandmother's sacrifices. My mother's betrayal. My stepfather's theft. But I also wrote about resilience, about determination, about refusing to let circumstances define my future. When I finished at sunrise, my eyes were dry. I'd cried myself out. Now I was just angry, focused, dangerous. I'm going to win, I whispered to my grandmother's photo on my phone. I promise you I'm going to win. 2 months later, I sat in Aunt Shanice's car outside Howard University, the acceptance letter trembling in my hands. Full ride. For years. Room and board. Baby girl, I told you, Shanice said, tears streaming down her face. I told you you'd make it. I'd gotten into Howard's business program with a full scholarship, plus a stipend for books and expenses. But the real prize was the Kayla Henderson Memorial Scholarship, $10,000 annually for African American women pursuing entrepreneurship. The award letter specifically mentioned my essay about turning adversity into ambition. My mother had texted me 47 times since I'd gotten the news. I'd read none of them. Marcus had called Aunt Shanice screaming that I was tearing the family apart. Devin had posted on social media that I was ungrateful and privileged. The irony wasn't lost on me. Graduation day arrived. I walked across that stage without my mother in the audience. Aunt Shanice cheered loud enough for both of them, her voice hoarse by the end of the ceremony. After, I found Mom waiting by Shanice's car, Marcus and Devin conspicuously absent. Congratulations, baby. She tried to hug me, but I stepped back. I'm so proud of you. Are you? The question hung between us. Proud enough to leave him? Proud enough to admit what he did was wrong. She looked down. It's complicated, Sarah. It's really not. I opened the car door. You chose him over me. Over your own mother's memory. That's not complicated. That's just sad. Wait. She pressed an envelope into my hands. It's not much, but it's something. I've been saving from my check, hiding it from Marcus. Inside was $2,000 in cash. Mom. Take it. Please. Let me do this one thing right. Howard University changed everything. Professor Janet Williams ran the entrepreneurship program like a military operation. Demanding, unforgiving, brilliant. She saw something in me during that first lecture about disruptive innovation. Miss Thompson, she called after class one day in October, stay behind. My heart raced. Had I done something wrong? I reviewed your scholarship essay, she said, studying me over her glasses. You've got fire. Question is, what are you going to do with it? I'm going to build something, I replied. Something that can't be taken away. Good answer. She smiled, her dark eyes sharp. How do you feel about tech startups? That conversation changed my life. Professor Williams introduced me to her network. Venture capitalists, successful entrepreneurs, tech innovators. She mentored me personally, pushing me harder than any teacher ever had. By spring semester, I'd developed an idea. A platform connecting first-generation college students with micro-scholarships from corporations looking to invest in diverse talent. It's brilliant, Professor Williams said, reviewing my pitch deck. But you need a technical co-founder. That's when I met Jasmine Park, a computer science major from California. She was Korean-American, brilliant, and obsessed with using tech to solve social inequality. I'm in, she said after my 5-minute pitch in the student center. But I want equity, not just a cut. 50-50. I agreed immediately. We build this together. We launched ScholarStream as a beta in May, funding it with our combined savings. My $2,000 from Mom and Jasmine's coding bootcamp refund. 5 corporations signed on as pilot partners. 20 students received micro-scholarships of $500 to $2,000 for specific achievements. Volunteering, maintaining GPAs, completing certifications. The summer between freshman and sophomore year, we lived in Professor Williams's basement, coding and cold calling 16 hours a day. By junior year, ScholarStream had distributed $2.3 million to 1,500 students across 30 universities. Jasmine and I had dropped to part-time student status to run the company full-time. Professor Williams joined our board. We'd raised $5 million in seed funding from a venture capital firm that specialized in social impact startups. Then Microsoft called. "They want to acquire ScholarStream?" Jasmine asked, her voice squeaking. We were in our tiny office, a converted storage room the university let us use rent-free. "For how much?" "They don't want to acquire it," I said, rereading the email. "They want to partner with us. They'll integrate our platform into their education initiative and provide $50 million in matching scholarship funds." We screamed. We cried. We called Professor Williams, who came running across campus in her pajamas at 11 p.m. "Girls," she said, hugging us both, "you did it. You actually did it." The Microsoft partnership transformed everything. Within 6 months, ScholarStream was on 200 campuses. We hired a team of 12. Jasmine and I moved into a real office in a WeWork downtown. Major corporations lined up to sponsor scholarships. Google, Goldman Sachs, Johnson & Johnson, Target. I was 20 years old and my company was valued at $45 million. That's when my mother called for the first time in 18 months. "Zara? Baby, I saw you on the news. Microsoft and everything. I'm so proud. How'd you get this number?" I'd changed it specifically so they couldn't reach me. Aunt Shanice gave it to me. "Zara, I need to talk to you. It's about Marcus." "I don't want to hear it. He left me." Her voice broke. "He emptied our savings and left. Devon too. They moved to Florida together." I felt nothing. "And you're calling me why?" "Because I was wrong. About everything. And I'm sorry." I didn't respond to Mom's apology. I was too busy building an empire. By the time I graduated Howard, on time with honors, ScholarStream had distributed over $100 million in scholarships and was valued at $200 million. Jasmine and I owned 35% each after multiple funding rounds. We'd been profiled in Forbes, Black Enterprise and TechCrunch. I was on the Forbes 30 Under 30 list at 22. But success felt hollow without revenge. I wanted Marcus and Devon to see what they'd stolen from me. Not money, but the chance to watch me succeed. I wanted them to know they'd bet on the wrong person. Then fate handed me an opportunity. "Zara, you need to see this," Jasmine said one morning, showing me her phone. Devon had posted on LinkedIn that he was working at a retail store in Orlando. He tagged the location. A struggling electronics chain called TechStop, 30 stores across Florida and Georgia hemorrhaging money. TechStop. I researched them immediately. The company was drowning in debt, facing bankruptcy. The owner was desperate to sell. Their corporate office was in Atlanta. "Why are you smiling like that?" Jasmine asked nervously. "That's your villain smile." "Because I just found our next acquisition. I called our investment banker. I want to buy TechStop. All of it. And I want it done quietly through an LLC. The employees shouldn't know who owns it until I'm ready to tell them." "Zara, that's a $50 million acquisition for a dying retail chain. It makes no business sense." "It does to me. I thought about my grandmother, about that empty account statement, about Marcus's sneer as he told me I'd fail. Sometimes business is personal." The acquisition took 6 months of due diligence, negotiations and restructuring plans. We bought TechStop in March for $47 million, assuming their debt. I showed up to the TechStop corporate office unannounced on a Tuesday morning. The executives looked terrified when I walked into the boardroom with Jasmine and our lawyers. "Good morning," I said, taking the head chair. "I'm Zara Thompson, your new owner. Let's talk about saving this company." The turnaround strategy was aggressive. Close underperforming stores, renegotiate supplier contracts, modernize the inventory system, and partner with ScholarStream to offer scholarship opportunities to employees pursuing higher education. We rebranded as TechStream, positioned ourselves as the socially conscious alternative to Best Buy. Within 6 months, we'd cut losses by 60%. Within a year, we were profitable. The company that was worth $47 million when I bought it was now valued at $180 million. I'd turned a revenge purchase into a legitimate success story. But I hadn't forgotten why I'd really bought it. Ma'am. My assistant poked her head into my office. The Orlando store manager sent the weekly report. There's a note about an employee request you flagged. I opened the file. There it was. Devin Marcus Henderson requesting a transfer to the Atlanta location. He wanted to move back home closer to his father. My hands trembled slightly as I held the paper. Approve it, I said. Transfer him to our flagship store. And schedule a grand reopening event for that location in 6 weeks. I want to be there personally to meet the team. Jasmine appeared in my doorway. Zara, are you sure about this? You've built something amazing. Don't let revenge mess that up. It's not revenge, I said, though we both knew I was lying. It's closure. Closure looks different for different people, she said carefully. Just make sure this is really what you need. I thought about it all night. Was this too much? Too petty? Then I remembered his smirk, his phone, his dismissive little sis. Oh, this was perfect. The Atlanta TechStream flagship store gleamed under new LED lighting. I'd invested $2 million in renovations, sleek design, interactive displays, a scholarship information center prominently featured at the entrance. 200 people attended the grand reopening. Press, local politicians, business leaders, and every employee. I wore a navy Tom Ford suit, my natural curls styled perfectly, my grandmother's necklace around my neck. At 24, I'd grown into my power. Professor Williams stood beside me, beaming with pride. Aunt Shanice had a front row seat, dabbing her eyes with tissue. My mother was there too. I'd sent her an invitation after months of therapy helped me process my anger. We weren't close. Maybe we'd never be again, but I'd learned that forgiveness wasn't for her. It was for me. Marcus and Devin had no idea. They stood in their TechStream uniforms in the back. Devin at Register 3, Marcus in the warehouse after I'd quietly arranged his hiring through HR. He'd applied desperate for work after his contracting business failed. The irony was delicious. Thank you all for coming, I said into the microphone, my voice steady and strong. 6 years ago, I learned a hard lesson about trust and family. Someone I trusted took something precious from me. My college fund, my security, my peace. They told me I'd fail, that I couldn't make it without them. I caught Devin's eye. He hadn't recognized me yet. I looked different now, polished and powerful, not the 17-year-old girl he'd dismissed. They were wrong, I continued. Today, I'm proud to announce that TechStream, which many of you knew as TechStop, is now part of the ScholarStream family of companies. Combined, we're valued at over $500 million. And we're just getting started. The applause was thunderous. Devin's face went white as recognition dawned. Marcus pushed through the crowd, his expression shifting from confusion to horror. Zara. Marcus's voice cracked. You own this? The crowd quieted as Marcus approached the stage, Devin trailing behind him. My security team tensed, but I held up a hand. Let them come. Hello, Marcus. Devin. Welcome to my company. This is a joke, Devin said, but his voice lacked conviction. You can't. This isn't. I can, and I did. I descended from the stage, every eye in the room on us. You stole $127,000 from my college fund. You told me I'd fail. You said I'd see how hard the real world was. I smiled, cold and sharp. You were right about one thing. The real world is hard. Especially when you're working minimum wage at 29 because you wasted every opportunity handed to you. Marcus's face purpled. You brought us here to humiliate us? After everything. Everything what, Marcus? Everything you did for me. I laughed. You stole from a dead woman's granddaughter. You enabled your son's failure at my expense. You told my mother to choose between you and me, and for a while she chose you. That's what you did. I needed that money, Devon said desperately. The business would have worked if you'd had any talent, work ethic, or basic business sense. I cut him off. Devon, you lost $127,000 in 3 months on fake sneakers. A middle schooler could have done better. Mom appeared beside me, her hand on my arm. Zara, maybe we should. No, Mom. They humiliated me when I was powerless. Now they get to see what I became anyway. I turned back to Marcus. You told me I'd come crawling back. But look at us now. I'm your boss. You work for me. Every day you'll clock in at a company I built from nothing. How does that feel? Marcus lunged forward, but security grabbed him. You vindictive little. Careful, I said softly. That's insubordination. I'd hate to fire you on your first day. The room erupted in whispers. Devon looked like he might vomit. I didn't fire them. That would have been too easy too quick. Instead, I let them work. Every day Marcus unloaded trucks in the warehouse and Devon rang up customers at the register. Every day they saw my face on the company newsletter, my quotes in the training materials, my vision statement on the wall. They lasted 6 weeks. Marcus quit first, walking out mid-shift after a customer recognized him as the guy who stole from his stepdaughter. Devon followed 3 days later, unable to handle the whispers, the pitying looks, the constant reminder of his failure. I heard through Mom that they'd moved again, this time to Texas. I didn't care. They were gone and I was free. ScholarStream and TechStream continued to grow. We distributed $500 million in scholarships over the next 3 years. We employed 2,000 people, offered industry-leading benefits, and became a model for socially responsible business. Jasmine and I made the Forbes billionaire list at 28 when we took the company public at a $3.2 billion valuation. I bought my grandmother's house from my mother and restored it, turning it into a community center offering free financial literacy classes. Mom and I rebuilt our relationship slowly, with boundaries and therapy and honest conversations about her choices. She'd never be my best friend again, but she was my mother, and I'd learned that healing wasn't linear. Professor Williams retired, and I endowed a chair in her name at Howard. Aunt Shanice moved into a house I bought her in her dream neighborhood. I funded a scholarship in my grandmother's name, full ride, no strings attached, for first-generation students. On the 10th anniversary of that terrible day when I found the empty bank statement, I stood in my corner office overlooking downtown Atlanta. My phone rang. Unknown number. Miss Thompson? This is Marcus Henderson. I was wondering if we could talk. I've done some thinking and I believe I owe you an apology. I hung up. I didn't need his apology. I'd already won. The end wasn't about revenge. It was about building something so undeniable that my grandmother could see it from heaven. Proof that her investment, her love, her faith hadn't been wasted. They tried to steal my future. Instead, they'd fueled it. I won not because I destroyed them, but because I became unstoppable.